Do you know that Dave Kunst was the first man to walk around the world? Although he crossed oceans by airplane, he still managed to walk nearly 27,000 kilometers in different segments. But today, we are not talking about Dave Kunst. The man we are about to discuss may have gone even further than him. This is the story of a man who decided to walk the longest continuous route on Earth, completely on foot. His name is Karl Bushby, a former British paratrooper, whose thinking begins where most people's imagination ends. Not 5,000 kilometers, not 10,000, not even 25,000, Karl has already walked more than 47,000 kilometers, and incredibly, his journey is still not finished. He has crossed 25 countries, 6 deserts, 7 mountain ranges, and spent 27 years on the road. His goal is simple but almost impossible: to walk around the entire world without using any form of transport or outside support. On November 1, 1998, Karl Bushby began his journey from Punta Arenas, a city located at the southern tip of Chile. He started with just $500 in his pocket and named his mission the Goliath Expedition. The plan was to walk through South America, cross North America, enter Russia, then continue through Asia and finally reach his hometown in England. The total distance of this journey was estimated to be 58,000 kilometers. Karl calculated that if he walked around 19 kilometers per day, he could complete the expedition in about 8 years. However, he had no idea that this 8-year plan would turn into a 27-year-long struggle. Karl set 2 strict rules for himself. First, he would not use any vehicle at all: no cars, trains, boats, or airplanes. Every step had to be taken on foot. Second, if his journey was ever interrupted, he would restart exactly from the same point where he had stopped. These rules may sound simple, but following them cost Karl years of loneliness, visa troubles, financial problems, and constant encounters with death. His journey began in South America, where extreme weather, dangerous terrain, and endless challenges awaited him at every turn. South America, deserts, mountains, and isolation. Karl Bushby took his first steps on the rocky lands of South America. From the beginning, nature tested him with brutal conditions. He mostly followed the Pacific coastline and walked alongside the Andes Mountains, avoiding the dense and deadly Amazon rainforest. Even then, the journey was far from easy. In Patagonia, Karl faced freezing winds strong enough to knock him off balance. The vast open land offered no shelter, and walking against the wind felt like fighting an invisible enemy every day. As he moved north, the terrain became even more challenging. Crossing the Andes mountain range, the longest mountain range in the world, meant constant climbing, descending, and battling exhaustion. One of the most dangerous parts of South America was the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth. Water was extremely scarce, and daytime temperatures were unforgiving. Karl had to carry extra water, knowing that one mistake could cost him his life. He used a small push cart with 2 wheels, which carried his food, clothes, and essential supplies. This cart became his lifeline. Karl later explained that in the Atacama Desert, he only stopped walking when he found water. The desert showed no mercy. Long days, silent nights, and endless sand tested both his body and mind. Despite all this, crossing South America was a major milestone in his expedition. However, the real challenge was still ahead, a place feared by even the most experienced explorers. A 320-kilometer stretch of dense jungle between Colombia and Panama, known as the Darien Gap. This region is filled with wild animals, poisonous snakes, deadly insects, armed guerrilla groups, and no roads at all. Surviving South America was not just about physical strength, it required mental toughness and unbreakable determination. Karl was learning that this journey was not just a walk, it was a battle against nature, fear, and isolation. The Darien Gap in Central America. The Darien Gap is considered one of the most dangerous places on Earth. Dense jungle, swamps, unpredictable weather, and violent groups make it nearly impassable. Karl had to carefully navigate through this deadly region, constantly watching his step and surroundings. While attempting to cross into Panama, Karl was arrested by Panamanian police and held in jail for 18 days. After investigations and explanations, he was released. According to his rules, he returned to the exact spot where he had stopped and resumed his journey on foot. Crossing Central America brought new challenges. The region consists of many small countries, each with its own visa requirements. Karl often spent long periods waiting at borders, dealing with paperwork instead of walking. Despite these obstacles, by 2002, he had successfully crossed Central America and entered the United States. In the U.S., Karl faced long highways, traffic dangers, and extreme heat in the Sonoran Desert, which was even hotter than the Atacama Desert. The journey tested his endurance daily. By 2005, Karl reached Canada and then Alaska, where the environment changed completely. In Alaska, temperatures dropped dramatically. Snow, ice, and harsh terrain made walking extremely difficult. There were no roads in many areas. Karl followed old dog sled trails, not using dogs but walking on the compressed snow left behind. Even here, he refused help, staying true to his rules. Little did Karl know that the most dangerous challenge of his entire expedition was waiting ahead, the frozen waters separating America from Russia. The Bering Strait, walking on frozen sea to enter Russia from Alaska, Karl had to cross the Bering Strait, a frozen ocean between the United States and Siberia. The ice here is unstable, constantly moving due to ocean currents. Large ice sheets drift apart, revealing open water beneath. Karl often had to swim in freezing water to move from one ice sheet to another. Hypothermia was a constant threat. He crossed this deadly stretch with a French adventurer named Dimitri Kieffer. Together, they walked approximately 240 kilometers in extreme Arctic conditions. They survived violent storms and went 14 days without proper sleep. Finally, when they reached Russia, Karl faced another shock. Russian authorities arrested him, claiming that the Bering Strait was not an official port of entry, even though he had a valid visa. He was deported back to the UK. This could have ended everything. However, due to media attention and intervention by British Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott and Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich, Karl was eventually allowed to return. Still, Russia became a long-term obstacle. His visas lasted only 90 days, forcing him to leave repeatedly. Sometimes, these delays lasted months or even years. Russia, bans, and endless waiting. By 2008, Karl's funding ran out, and he was forced to stop in Mexico for nearly 2 years, waiting for support. In 2011, he resumed walking through Siberia, crossing frozen rivers and dangerous tundra landscapes. In 2013, disaster struck again when Russia banned Karl for 5 years. Instead of giving up, Karl chose a unique form of protest. He walked 4,800 kilometers from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., and protested outside the Russian embassy. The media covered this extraordinary protest, and in 2014, the ban was lifted. Karl returned to the exact GPS location in Siberia where he had stopped and continued walking. From Russia, he entered Mongolia, crossed the Gobi Desert, and then traveled through China, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. However, Iran's visa refusal once again blocked his path. Swimming the Caspian Sea due to visa issues during the pandemic, Karl made a life-threatening decision. In 2022, he decided to swim across the Caspian Sea to reach Azerbaijan. He used a small kayak only to carry his supplies. Karl swam 288 kilometers in 31 days, swimming 6 hours daily. At night, he slept on the kayak. Despite violent waves and exhaustion, he succeeded and reached Azerbaijan safely. From there, he resumed walking and entered Turkey in 2025, where he received overwhelming hospitality. In Istanbul, authorities made a rare exception and allowed him to walk across the Bosphorus Bridge, officially entering Europe. The final stretch home after 27 years, Karl has only 3,000 kilometers left. His route passes through Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Austria, Germany, and France, before reaching the UK. The final challenge is the English Channel, where walking through the tunnel is forbidden. Karl hopes to get special permission to use the service tunnel. It is expected that by 2026, Karl Bushby will finally step into his hometown, completing 58,000 kilometers, 1.5 times around the Earth. His journey proves one thing: human limits exist only in the mind. Karl Bushby is still walking, reminding the world that life never stops, it only changes its path.